welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we are really excited today. We are inspired by Hallmark's Jane Austen Month, and we are talking about modern adaptations of Austen. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Terry's here.
Hi,
How's it going?
pretty good.
Yeah. So yeah, what was this like for you getting to see all these modern adaptations of Jane Austen? What do you think
Well,
overall?
there were a few I hadn't seen that I'm glad I did see because I ended up really enjoying them. But
Hmm.
um, mostly good because the ones I hadn't seen were good, and
Yeah.
the ones that weren't that good I've seen already. So
Yeah, so because I've been very tough on
right,
Hallmark's modern adaptations, which we only included one in this list because they're not really adaptations at all.
yeah.
And so I think I had going into this kind of a like, oh, they're really terrible. But actually, when once I left watching these 13 movies, I
Yeah,
only had one that I actually like outright disliked. The rest I could find positive in
right.
all of them. So yeah, it was kind of a surprising, interesting list. And it's always interesting to see how people can take these classic stories and apply them to modern life. You think like, what do we have in common with Regency era
Right.
stories? But the themes are universal, as
Totally.
Jane Austen liked to say.
Jane Austen works in any time period
Yeah.
if you work it right and you do it
Mhm.
well. It's very adaptable. Its themes are still resonate today. That's why she's still so popular. That's why
Yeah.
we continue making or remaking her novels into films, miniseries,
Yeah.
whatever. She's just endlessly entertaining.
Yeah. And because it's about her, because her characters are so strong. I think that
Yeah,
that is why it can be, you can take those characters and place them in any era and it'll work because we can relate to what the characters are going through, even if the trappings around them are different. Yeah. It's
right.
very interesting. Well, yeah, so we picked 13 films. I'll put the list in the description if you want to make their own rankings or give us your favorites, least favorites in the comments, or if you want to do your own post, we'd love to get tagged and hear that. That would be really fun. And there are probably others that we could have included, but you have to you have to stop somewhere.
It is a
um,
long list.
yes. So, what do you have at 13?
I have the 2003 adaptation of Pride and Prejudice,
Mm-hmm.
and I had never seen this movie before. It had
Mm-hmm.
escaped me.
Yes.
But I knew a lot of people who did see it and really liked it. And I finally watched it, and I didn't think it was that great. But the one thing that I do think works for this movie is that it sets itself in a community.
Yeah.
And all these are college kids who go to BYU, they're Mormon, so it's set into that community, and it basically tells the lives was set in the boundaries of how they're living in that community. I really like that approach that
Yeah.
it just took this life that maybe or how these people live these
Mm-hmm.
not everyone is knows, and of course there's a lot of crazy rumors out there, like of how Mormons live or whatever, but this
Right.
showed the lives, and I liked it. I really liked how it was
Yeah.
just set in this community, and some of the things made me laugh, and you know uh, the dude who gets dumped at church just goes on and on about women and
Yeah.
feminist women, and everybody's having this look of aghast and checking their watch. I think anybody of any type of religion who goes up and hears somebody preach, like we all have, that's a universal experience where we
Yeah.
just want to check out and get out of there because somebody keeps going on too long.
Yes.
But and I liked what they did with Wickham too. Like he just wants to marry these girls so he can hook up with them because he's got to
Hmm.
marry them to hook up with them. Those things I like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but there wasn't really much chemistry
Okay.
between like Darcy and Lizzie, and
Yeah.
I think it's probably more dated, and I
Yeah.
think maybe that's why it doesn't still work today.
Yeah, I hadn't seen this in a long time. It's interesting because I do have it a little higher, but not like super
Yeah,
high, maybe partly for nostalgia. But like
right.
I have memories of watching it in college, and then I looked and I'm like, no, it came out in 2003. I was on my mission, so I couldn't have seen it when it came out, but I swear I remember. So that's like a Mandela effect. Like I'm going insane. But but when it came out, because I went to BYU, I
Oh, it
am
must have been so exciting to
yeah,
just
when it
see
came out, I mean, compared
yourself
to,
represented, yeah,
well,
in a
yeah,
way.
and compared to a lot of the other, uh, Mormon films, especially the comedies at the time, this was like way better than a lot of the others,
Yeah.
and it does have some pretty funny moments, or it does have some pretty, I would say, like iconic moments of, yeah, when she tosses the hymnal at the.
Oh, we've all dreamed that, Rachel. We've
Yes.
all dreamed that.
Yeah, and especially in, if people don't know, in the Mormon church, there's no paid clergy, and so people speak from the congregation, and
Hmm.
so that it can be really nice. You get to hear
Yeah.
authentic testimony and stuff that can be really wonderful, but it can also be a big mixed bag sometimes. So, yeah, and so that's a really fun moment. But it's true, it did not hold up as well as I was
Yeah.
hoping it would. Like a lot of the humor doesn't land, doesn't work, and some of the filmmaking is pretty rough. You can feel the budget, of course.
Yeah.
And I agree about the chemistry. And yeah, so it has some nostalgia for me.
Totally.
And
I could see, yeah. I could see how young kids could just grab to this, like, oh, I see myself here. Like
yeah,
I
yeah,
have myself and Jane Austen, like combined. So I could see how this could really
yeah.
mean, So I would say check it out though. It is interesting. You do gotta laugh though. We need to constantly be reminded that Jane is Hispanic by playing
Right. Yeah.
the, the live music every time she walks into a
Yeah.
place. So
And it's funny, it has Carmen Rasmussen, who was on American Idol at the time. And so she was
oh,
like a
I didn't.
big, Utah favorite, things like that.
So
Well, my number 13, like I said, is the only movie in this grouping that I actually
mhm.
really hate. It's Austin Land. I hate it. I flipped through it yesterday just sure it's just I didn't actually watch it all the way through, but I was kind of looking through it. I
Yeah.
was like, do I really hate yes, I really hate this. And like Jennifer Coolidge is great. She's kind of saves it from what can be saved. But I hate the story.
Right.
I hate its
Yeah.
understanding of Austin. It's that it's the most superficial reading of Jane Austen.
That it is, yes.
Yeah, that it's all about just Colin Firth and the romance and Darcy,
Yeah.
and that it doesn't dive into any of these deeper themes. And you look at something like Pagey Mr. Darcy was just on a Hallmark channel, like that one was refreshing in the sense it was not a perfect film, but it was refreshing in the sense that it acknowledged there's more to her writing
Right.
than just the romance. Not that there's anything wrong with romance, but this had just a superficial understanding. And what made me so mad, and the reason why I really hate it, is that she's like she's she this guy tries to assault her. She's attacked. And the
You
attitude of
know,
everybody involved is like, why are you being so mean to this park? And why are you being so mean to Austin Land? And they're like, you did this again to this guy? Like he's evidently done this to many patrons who spent their life savings to come to this place. And it's like, oh, you're being so difficult. I'm sorry if I didn't want to get assaulted.
it's funny, Rachel. I did not read. I have this a little higher on my list. I don't hate it as much as you do. I know it's not perfect. I like it slightly better than you, but I don't have a memory of this. It's like I erased it. And I've told you before that somebody gave me these books and I still haven't read them for this. But I think Jane Seymour just looks stunning here.
yeah.
I think I'm
Yeah, it does
swayed
look
by
pretty
J.J.
good.
Field, because he's also in a very famous Jane Austen adaptation, Northanger
Yeah.
Abbey,
I
and he's
just
swoon worthy in that.
yeah. I just
And
hate the story. I hated the book.
yeah,
So
the
I
idea
as
of it
much as
is
I
nice.
I really
Yeah.
want to love Shannon Hale's adult fiction. But because she's like a Utah girl, and this
Yeah.
movie was very popular in Utah, Austin Land. It's directed by Jerry Host, who's also a Utah person. It was very popular here, but I just don't like her writing for adults. I hated Austin Land, and I hated the actor in The Housewife. It was horrible. So it's just not for me.
Yeah.
Other people enjoy it. That's great.
I do
I
love the
just
premise of it. Like some place where we could just live out a
yeah.
fantasy.
Yeah, and
It's,
not get assaulted,
I will
hopefully.
say that they also, I think they don't really, how they portray it is they really, it, like you said, it's superficial, but it's more towards the movies, the adaptations, than it is really the novel.
Books, yeah.
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 So,
So it's definitely not a favorite of mine. But
yeah.
what do you have at 12?
Oh, this is one that I probably like this the least out of all the lists, but for my 12 I put Sense and Sensibility.
Yeah, same. I
It
have it at
stars
12.
a Hallmark fave, Ashley
Yeah.
Williams. This one is I don't know if it manages to be a really good interpretation of Sense and Sensibility regardless of its modern take. But
Hmm.
Marianne is a terrible person in this movie, I found.
Yeah.
I couldn't connect to her character. Well, Marianne's not like a saint in the books or anything like that. She goes through it, but you can connect with her and how she grows and learns to be a better person, to be a better judge of character. She has to go through it. And I don't think the Marianne in this at all. And I know that the sisters lose their money because their dad is an embezzler and he gets arrested. Eleanor's got to scrub toilets at a spa. They end up making lotion and like even the guys just weren't. I don't really think anything in this movie works well. But I put
Yeah.
it above the Pride and Prejudice because I do think that it's made better. It looks better.
Hmm.
But there's not really much to it. But
Yeah,
Ashley Williams is always adorable though.
this was disappointing.
Yeah.
I On the rewatch, I think I'd given it a little bit too much credit the
Hmm.
first time I watched it, just because it wasn't like outright awful like these
Yeah.
other Austen adaptations. But yeah, on the rewatch, it is pretty bad. Like
Yeah.
neither of the sisters is all that likable.
Hmm.
The decision to make their dad an embezzler is
Yeah, just
just
like a terrible person.
yeah is weird. I do think that it is cast very well. I think both of the
Yeah.
men are very hunky. Both of
Oh, totally.
the
Yeah, but
actresses are really lovely. But it felt long. It felt
yes.
long to me.
I do wonder if it's because it came out in 2011. I wonder if I didn't see it in 2011. I saw it for the first time some years back. I wonder if it worked better in the era that it came out with than
Yeah,
it does today.
yeah,
Because that also might be, not everything ages well, and some
yeah.
things are so the time period it was made, that it doesn't
Hmm.
translate well. So I don't know if it just didn't age well or if it's always been this way, you know.
Yeah, I think that's true. And so yeah, I agree on this one. What do you have at 11?
11, I have Austin Land.
Okay, yeah. It's not much higher than me.
No, it's
No.
mainly it's because of Jane Seymour, like because she
Mm.
looks great. I love you,
Eh,
Dr. Quinn. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, the way she handles this whole assault thing annoys me so
Oh,
much,
I
but
know.
Jennifer Coolidge to me comes as close to saving the movie as you can.
Sure.
She's very funny. We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies Podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
Number 11 for me is where I have Unleashing Mr. Darcy,
I had that slightly higher.
our Hallmark edition. I think this is perfectly cute, and it is way better than any of the other Austen inspired Hallmark films up until this month.
Yeah.
And Ryan this is his best work in my opinion.
Debut, correct? I think.
Yeah, it was his debut,
Yeah.
and I just think he is best at playing basically Darcy at archetypes.
Right.
That's this or the Timeless Christmas, I think, are his best for me.
Yes.
And the dogs are super cute, and it has like enough beats of Pride and Prejudice, and it's like not really true. Like it's more an homage to Pride and Prejudice than an outright adaptation. And
it's also based on a Terry Wilson book, correct?
Yeah, it's based on a Terry Wilson book, and it's cute. It's one of Cindy's best.
Definitely, yes.
Hallmark movies. So yeah, that I have at 11. What do you have at 10?
I have Modern Persuasion. This is the most a recent one from 2020. It stars Alicia Witt. And I think she produces it as well, correct? And it has BB Newworth,
Great cast.
It does have a really solid cast, and I think it's actually a great interpretation and update of Persuasion. It's set like in the business world or in advertising, and that's how they meet up again, and it's like I wasn't going to abandon my dreams of a career to follow you around. These things are very relatable of how they broke up. And even the situations of how they come together. And I don't know, I mean, because I hadn't seen it before this, watched to rank these movies, but I really enjoyed it. It is a little stiff at certain parts. And whenever they get to dancing at those parties, it is the funniest thing to just see these people dance. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's like, I don't know how to move, or I don't know. It was very funny to me to see them dancing in it.
Yeah.
But I do think that it totally works. The cat is adorable in this movie. But I think it really works. And Alicia Witt is just so good in everything. And she brings a charm and a sensitivity to this role. And while I didn't think there was much chemistry, I do think it works,
Yeah, I have this a little bit higher. I did a whole defense of this on my other channel for my Jane Austen month. I really enjoyed it. If you were to go on Letterboxd, you'd see it's
I do see it's not. Yeah, I don't know why.
I don't agree. I think they did about as good a job of modernizing Persuasion as you could do, because so many dynamics of the story are not going to work in a modern setting. No. Because we just don't have the classes and the family structures that they had then. So to make that structure part of business, I think makes sense.
And how they make her family members, her work, the people she works with, how they transpose that. I do really like that.
Yeah, I thought it worked well, and BB Newworth is great as her sort of as her aunt, I think.
Her aunt.
Yeah, as her aunt, and also the one that she would have taken the guidance from at that time. And I think the way that they used text messaging as opposed to the letter, but they also invoke persuasion.
Oh yeah,
into the narrative in a pretty, I think, a fun way.
Yes, because the cat is named. Wasn't the cat named Wentworth?
Yeah, the cat is named Wentworth, and they talk about Wentworth's
It's very funny.
letter.
I was like, they are mentioning, they don't say it by name, but they do mention the letter. They do mention the book, in a roundabout way. So,
and for people that don't watch television movies, I can see having a little bit more of the flaws of kind of more the genre, even though this was a feature film. Because the lighting is really stark and the production values, it feels like a made-for-TV movie.
Yeah, it's like a low-budget film.
Yeah, and they tend to have really strong lighting in these movies.
Yes,
and so I can understand that, I guess. But I really enjoyed it. I thought the script was clever, the cast was good, I liked their chemistry, and I think it's about as good as you could do. So I
And
give it some credit on that.
they do a lot with their setting because
They
it
really
is a
do.
lower budget film, so they have a place and they work with it. So I
Yeah,
like that. I
yeah,
would say check it out. I
yeah.
found it charming.
I really do think Hallmarkies will like it if they give it
Yeah.
a chance. And we talked to Alicia Witt after this came out. So you should check out that interview. I asked her all about it. So I number 10, I have the 2003 Pride and Prejudice. And
Mhm.
like I said, a lot of humor doesn't hold up.
Yeah.
It's low budget, but as somebody who was living in Provo in or around that time,
Totally. I could totally see it. Yeah.
it rings true. It is
I
pretty funny.
I think had
So,
I seen this film when it came out in 2003, I would have it higher. I
mm-hmm.
think that I would have a
Yeah.
nostalgic feel to it because I can see it just really speaking
Yeah.
to me at that time,
Well, and I
early
do,
20s and all
yeah,
that
and
stuff.
I do think if you compare it to a lot of other faith-based, even though this
Mhm.
is not, there's minimal religion in
Oh
the
yeah.
movie, but still, if you compare it to other faith-based comedies, it's high
Yeah,
compared to a lot of
it's
those.
true.
So what are you gonna
There's some tough comedies, faith-based.
do? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's a tough
number nine,
market.
yeah. What do you have at number 9?
This is where I have Unleashing Mr. Darcy.
Mm-hmm.
And what a debut for Ryan Paevey with that thirst trap moment, which I
Yeah.
think is most memorable. He's coming out, see,
Yes.
coming out of the pool. Now, see, I was very used to the thirst trap moment because he was on General Hospital at the time,
Mm-hmm.
so I knew him from my stories,
Yeah.
and I was like, when he popped out, I was like, yeah, the fans are gonna love him. They're gonna have an attachment for him. He's a very
Yeah.
good looking man. And
He is.
yeah, this I think he's very good in this. Which because I think he got better as he went along on the General Hospital. Because it's a soap opera, you do that
Uh-huh.
every day, you have to grow with your
Yeah.
character. And when I saw him here, I was like, oh, he does have a bit more range than what they are giving him currently. He ended up having better range and a better character throughout his years when he was on the show. But this was a real eye opener for me. I kind of liked him better after I kind of liked his
Yeah.
character better after seeing him in a Hallmark movie
Yeah,
than I
and
did watching it from the show.
I really think that he's best when he's
Mm.
playing some version of Darcy.
Yes, totally. Yeah.
That is his sweet spot. When he tries to play sincere, I don't know, it tends to not work for me. I really, really hated that
I
soap
mean,
opera one. I thought that one was terrible.
oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think when there's sort of a yeah, I mean, I can't even think of what else to say it, but when there's a
Yeah.
Darcy element to his
Yeah.
performance, I think it works.
I really like that. I can't remember the name of it, but I do like that, the soap opera one.
Oh,
It had
yeah.
soap stars and a soap legend, Linda Tano. It was great. I mean, if you love soaps, it was for you, that one. But yeah, like I didn't even think I was gonna like this one because it was like dogs. They're in a dog show. How are you gonna put this
Yeah.
with Jane Austen?
But those
But they
dogs are
make it
really
work.
cute. They have
Yeah, they make
very
it work, and
cute dogs.
to me, I did not like the sequel. And I know that this movie was so
Yeah.
popular that a sequel
Yeah.
came a couple of years later because of the popularity of this movie. But
Hmm.
it's better than the sequel, and I
Yeah.
still think it holds up as a good interpretation and modern view of Pride and Prejudice. So
Yeah.
check it out. Not just of Ryan Paevey coming all out of the pool all wet with the shortest of swim trunks you could find out there. But if you're into that,
Yeah.
kudos.
Who
But
isn't? I
I
mean,
do
come
think
on.
this is one of Cindy Busby's better Hallmark
Yeah.
movies, and there's a lot of charm to it.
I
And of
agree.
course, Frances Fisher, who's very good in this as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, my number 9 is where I have From Prada to Nada. And
Hmm.
this
Oh,
is a
mhm.
loose adaptation of Sense and Sensibility, but it
Yes.
gets most of the beats of the
Yeah.
story, I think. And it has a Latin flair to
Yeah.
it with Alexa Penavega and Camilla, what's her last name?
Belle, I think.
Camilla
Yeah.
Bell in the leads as the two sisters. I really enjoy all of the dudes in this movie. They
Oh,
are all very pretty, and I think it's pretty funny, and I think that it does have enough like it has enough heart, and
Hmm.
I enjoy the cultural winks that it
Yes.
has. I don't know. I think it's I like it. I think it's a little underrated, I would
Yeah, I
say.
have it. I have it at 8. It's my number 8.
Okay. Yeah.
And I hadn't seen this one before until this rewatch. I really enjoyed it. I think
Yeah, it was fun.
Alexa Penavega is the best thing in this movie. Her hair is on
Hmm.
point, by the way. Her hair looks
Yeah.
fabulous throughout. I really do think she's the best thing about this movie. And I
Hmm.
kind of like it because these are like, well, for she in particular, very rich and spoiled, and then their father dies, and just them driving into the bad into what they perceive as the bad part of of Los Angeles, going, is this how the poor live? It is that really is funny, but it's also them rediscovering their Mexican heritage,
Hmm.
getting closer to family. I like what they do with the brother because, in Sense and Sensibility, sometimes the brother is kind of like a know nothing character.
Yeah,
At
that's true.
times, like,
Yeah.
in certain adaptations, he really doesn't play that big of a part. He, in the books, I mean, it's important because of the actions that he and his wife do, but, they give him a little bit more depth in this, and he has such a mean wife. I love his mean girl wife, and,
Yeah, she's
um,
really funny. April Bowby, dropped a
yeah.
diva fans. Well,
And I do
but
think that some of the stuff is a little too on the nose, but it's a fun romp.
hmm
I
yeah,
would say, it's really fun. This
yeah.
was I didn't even know this existed until a couple years ago, so
Well, and it is they try to they try to claim that Camilla Bell is not attractive by giving her glasses.
oh my
Like, I mean,
God.
come on.
I wish she had a little bit more spice in her character. She was, like I
Yeah.
said, Alexa Pennebaker
She's
just
supposed-
steals everything, and she has all the energy. I'll say
yeah.
this is one of the best things that I've seen her in, like, what she's doing. She's really into it, and so
Yeah.
yeah.
And it does have like a little bit of spice, which we typically don't see from her
Right.
in her roles. So yeah, I enjoyed it. So
Hmm.
let's see. So you had, what did you have at 9?
9, I had Alicia Mr.
Oh,
Darcy,
right,
and
right, right.
my 8 is from Prada Tonata.
Okay, cool. My 8 is where I have the Jane Austen book club. And
Mm.
this was a hard one for me to rank because I do think it's better made and acted than probably the 3 I have before it.
Hmm.
It's just as far as overall experience,
Right.
when I'm gravitated to rewatch, I do enjoy it. I think it's a good film. I think it's fun to see the evolution of the characters as they read each of these Jane Austen books.
Right. Each
And
each woman, like each of the 6 women are, because this is my number 7. I have this at 7.
yeah,
But each
I
woman sort of lives the book that they're reading. They kind
yeah,
of, yeah.
which is fun. I don't love the Emily Blunt plot.
No, neither do I.
That's the weak point
Yeah.
of the movie. But it's not, certainly doesn't ruin the movie.
No.
But I mean, absolutely great cast.
Oh, what a cast. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say I do think it's underappreciated. I think it's
Hmm.
a really solid little movie.
Totally. It's fun. Like, I do find it funny that they come up with it. Like, she comes up with the idea of the book club because they're at a Jane Austen film retrospect. And, they're
Yeah.
in line to go see the much, like, I don't particularly like this adaptation, but the Mansfield Park movie that came out a couple of years before.
Mm-hmm.
I always find that funny that Emily
Yeah.
Blunt is like, well, Mansfield Park is this and that. And they're in line to see that movie. And I laugh so much because
Yeah.
the excitement I had to see that movie and then walking away, and my frustration that they've never gotten Mansfield Park right in any adaptation. But
Yeah.
but I do like the part, and these, they invite Hugh Dancy in it, into the
Yeah.
club. They eventually
And
invite some of the men in.
yeah, and he's got that multi edition, with all the
Yeah.
books in one book, which is funny.
And yes, it's great.
So
But he tries, so give it to him.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
and so I think if people haven't seen it, I think people should give it a shot. It's a good movie.
Oh yeah, totally.
I just like some of these other ones a little bit better.
And I think they give a fair play to the 6 books because you have these 6 women sort of, interacting with the book that they're covering, and they kind of blend in with the characters and the situations. So you get like a really rounded or a fair share of everything Jane Austen from the 6 novels as best they could. But it's an incredible cast. You should watch it for the cast alone. There's so many people in there. A lot of TV people too, like you see normally on television.
Kathy Baker and people like that. Yeah.
And there's Lynn Redgrave plays a small role in it.
Yeah.
Well, there's even Mark Blucas. I forgot he was in this movie.
Oh, yeah. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's Baker Bookhouse and their spring releases. First, The Seamstress of Acadia by Laura France. Caught between the warring French and English on Canada's rugged shores in 1755, Sylvie Gallant is forced from her Acadian home and family and is alone in colonial Virginia. Now the enemy soldier who once tore her world apart might be the key to restoring her shattered past. Next, The Irish Matchmaker by Jennifer Dybel. Catriona Daly is no stranger to the business of love, even though personally she has yet to find it. Eager for a match of her own and a fresh start away from her sleepy village, she makes grand plans for the annual Lisdoonvarna Matchmaking Festival. She never expects, however, a shy, widowed sheep farmer to distract her from her goal. To get ready for summer, we have Just for the Summer by Melody Carlson. Ginny Masters manages a Seattle boutique hotel but is tired of the rat race. Jacqueline Bowman manages her grandfather's fishing lodge in Western Washington, but she longs for city life. Eager for a change, these women swap jobs for the summer, but it's not quite so simple to find the happiness and love they're searching for. And finally, Sandkissel Inn by Irene Hannon. When a man struggling to recoup from a tragic loss and woman still reeling from an unplanned career detour join forces to save a floundering B&B on the Oregon coast, they might also discover that hope and healing can sometimes be found in the most unexpected places. You can pick up any of these books wherever books are sold now or later this spring and save up to 40% off on these or the whole spring book release list at bakerbookhouse.com/featured/rebel-fiction or use the affiliate link below. That's bakerbookhouse.com/featured/rebel-fiction. Well, what do you have at 7?
That is what my 7.
Oh, you have at 7. Yeah. My number 7 is where I have Pride and Prejudice Atlanta.
Oh my gosh, Rachel, this is my number 6. We just went off.
That this is very underappreciated. It is definitely the best made for TV Austen adaptation.
Totally. Yes.
By far.
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
By far. It's a real gem.
Yeah.
It's not out there. I think it's on streaming now, but it's very little seen, I think. I don't know why, but Lifetime really nailed it out of the park with this one.
Yeah. For a long time, it wasn't available. But I just, as I was watching for this, I reviewed it for Jane Austen Month over on my channel. So I rewatched it, and it's now on Tubi and a bunch of other places. So it's just recently gotten a new release. So I really encourage everybody to check it out. I'm hoping that the Mahogany cast will do it.
It's such a gem of a movie. Yeah,
because I think that the changes that they make are really smart in a modern adaptation. I think that having Lydia get pregnant, I think is a smart way to do that. Because how are you, like, in this day and age, nobody would care who somebody else is marrying,
hooking up with or marrying.
Yeah, it would not matter. So, like, to have for the pastor's daughter to get pregnant, still I would have like a tiny bit of at least little bit of scandal. And so that made sense. I thought that was a smart way of adapting her character. And of course they were very loving and kind to her. And then what she does with Wickham, I thought made a lot of sense for her character. And then I think that the adaptation for Jane made a lot of sense because
she's a single mom, right?
Yeah, she's a single mom. And so that makes sense why she would be a little bit reticent to put herself completely out there. And then would make sense
why people why would you want to hook up with a single a single mom? What's her past like?
Well, and why Bingley would be a little bit like, I don't want to start a relationship unless I'm like really in this relationship, like, because she has a child. And so I just thought a lot of the choices they made a lot of sense. And I really love the cast. Great cast.
Yeah. Jackie Harry is so good. And you
Yeah.
have Reginald Johnson as the dad. He's good as well.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great
Mm-hmm.
cast. It really
Yeah.
is.
Everybody's really good. And I saw people like that felt like it was somehow like demeaning to the church, that like all these people
Hmm.
cared about was like getting a man. It's the only but I disagree. I mean, I feel like they had like real discussions with their dad. And like the only person who was really boy crazy was the mom, and she's always boy
Which,
crazy.
yes,
That's the
that transpires
character.
from the book itself. I
Yeah,
kind of liked how they made Jackie Harrod a novelist too, like she was a romance novelist. So
yeah,
she was very prone. But in the book too, the mom is like obsessed with all these
yeah,
girls marrying well, and the girls just don't care.
yeah,
And nor do their father. Their father's like, it'll come when it comes.
yeah.
But
And none of the girls, even Lydia, isn't
no,
particularly boy crazy in this.
no.
So I really enjoy it. I think it is underappreciated and people should check it
Totally.
out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And also, like, we're very used to seeing, white people play these characters and stuff. So spreading it
Yeah.
out, like, to the black community, it's nice to see
Yeah.
another side, another representation of like Jane Austen's work, because it speaks to everybody, no matter what status you are, what
Yeah.
religion you are,
Yeah.
with ethnicity. Jane Austen can speak to everybody,
Yeah.
and there is, you can make a story with, you know, everybody tied
Yeah.
together like that. And if you do it right, you nail it. And I do
Mhm.
think that this is like kind of a lost gem because it doesn't even repeat on like Lifetime anymore, and it's
Yeah.
not even on the streaming service, Lifetime streaming service. And I have no idea
Yeah.
why, but check it out. It's delightful.
It's
It's
really
great.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, number 6 is where I have Modern Persuasion.
Mhm.
I just really enjoyed it. I thought it did a great job of updating the story to a modern setting. I like Alicia Witt. I like the whole cast is
Mhm.
really fun, and yeah. So another one I
Yeah, I
think is
feel like that's
underrated.
like a hidden gem, right? To me, I feel like that's a hidden gem,
Yeah,
like a little discovery. It was very nice to discover that one.
yeah. So what do you have at 5?
I have Metropolitan.
Same. So
Yeah.
I
This was
also
I
have
had
5.
never seen this film before.
Yes.
Oh boy, the tries I had to watch this movie. I watched it when I was too tired and I ended up falling asleep. Then I tried to log back in and I had a whole bunch of login issues, because this is streaming on Max.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I was like, oh boy. And I finally got to see all of it last night. And basically it's a bunch of rich kids. I guess I'm not sure. It was made in 1990. I'm not sure when the setting is. It feels 1990, but it also
Yeah.
feels 80s. But it's a
Right.
bunch of rich kids going out and hanging out, and they think they're intellectuals the way they
Yeah.
talk, and
Oh yeah.
there are a bunch of stuff. But it's a little slow to go to. But as the film goes on, I started to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah. So this
yeah.
is maybe a stretch to call this an adaptation of Jane Austen. It's more an homage to Mansfield Park.
Totally, it is.
You have these, in the sense of Mansfield Park, a big plot element is
Mhm.
these rich young people that are bored, and
Exactly. It's basically what these kids are. They're rich young people who
yeah,
are bored as well. But
and
doesn't it? I'm sorry, Rachel, but it speaks so much volumes even today of the dude critiquing books that he's never read. And
yes,
I was like, doesn't that feel like what people are
yes.
doing with movies, books, music, whatever today? It's still the same.
Yes, and you can feel that. So with Stillman, the
Yeah.
director, he has a great love for Jane Austen, and he would later on do Love and
Yeah.
Friendship, which I really enjoy.
I love
Uh,
that movie as well. Yeah.
yeah, and he has a lot of like these pedantics commenting on Jane Austen in the script,
Yes, totally.
and the one girl loves Mansfield Park. She says it's her favorite, and the douchey guy is fronted by that. How could you like that
How could
book?
you like? I've
They have
never
this
even read
whole
it though.
this whole debate about it, and that he thinks his opinion is somehow more valid because he hasn't read it.
But I read only critiques of critiques.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's read the
it's so
critiques.
that spoke to me. I was like, we
Yeah,
haven't changed at all.
right.
It's been going
And
on since forever.
yeah,
But he does come around to it. He starts reading Jane Austen, so
does. And I really do enjoy this movie. It's definitely not going to be for everybody. He has sort
no,
of a dry
very
sense of
dry.
humor, and it is kind of slow. There's not a ton of story going on here. I think if it's your thing, you'll enjoy
Yeah,
it.
totally. I do love the last half of the film when he realizes, hey, I kind of like her, and
Mm-hmm.
and the two dudes who don't like each other get together on this long adventure to try to rescue her. And she
Yeah.
doesn't need rescuing, by the way, but it's just I don't know if it is a little slow to start, but I think too that you have to pay attention because like they'll say a humorous thing out of left field, like when the guys are
Mm-hmm.
at the bar. And they're talking to an
Oh
older
yeah.
version of themselves,
Oh, that's
and the
funny.
guy's like, "No, people like us don't fail." And the guy's like, "What do you mean we're not going to fail? There's still time for us to fail." Like,
Yeah.
just him
Yes.
thinking that no, people like us will eventually fail, and then being smacked with the reality that no, you're not going to fail because you have money. You'll be all right. It's kind of that had me going too. Like out of nowhere, there'll be like some really funny moments. Secret Christmas movie as well.
That's true. Yeah, it is. And New Year's. We could have had this
Yes,
in our New Year's
that's right.
list.
I did not know. I did
We could
not
have had
realize
this in
it. And
our
I was like, oh, it's a secret holiday film.
yeah, and this just it does feel very 1990-ish.
Totally.
It feels like that early Sundance kind of I don't know if this was at Sundance, but it feels very early Sundancey when you had movies like Slacker and uh
Would you have liked to have gone to one of these parties? Like, I don't even know if it still existed in 1990. I'm sure it still did. I'm sure remnants of that existed as it was. And they're like, we hate playing
yeah,
bridge, but they're playing bridge anyway. I mean, because
yeah,
these guys just think they're so smart. And I'm like, these are college kids, right? I was assuming that they were college
yeah.
kids. And
You
I'm
know,
like,
it
yeah,
would
well,
be
everybody thinks they're super smart at that age, you know?
it would be a lot different now because you wouldn't feel the same need to like interact
I
and
get,
try to
yeah.
one up each other because everybody would just be if they're bored, they'd just be on their phones, I think.
Exactly. It is
The
something
dynamic would be
lost.
so different now.
But I don't know if I could stand a party with all these people.
I
When
don't
I
think
watched
so.
Oppenheimer, I felt like I felt like, man, I wish I was at a party with all these smart people.
Mm,
So I could just be
yeah.
absorbing all of their smartness. Like in a way, like I'm dumb. And these people
Yeah.
are like, there was something intoxicating about being in, of seeing like, oh, of
Yeah.
course I'd be kicked out right away. I was like, but just absorbing
Yeah.
because a lot of people are like, oh, scientists or whatever. You always scratch your head, like, how do people find them so sexy? How do they
Well,
date all these women? This is because you're in a room and you hear them talk, and you're like, oh. And I was like, could I manage to like stay 10 minutes in a
yeah.
room with these people? And I don't
Well,
know if I could.
because in that case, those were actually brilliant people. In this case,
Exactly.
it's
Yeah. In
people
this case, it's because
pretending
it's
to
yuppies.
be, yeah, it's people pretending to be brilliant. So this would be far
Yeah.
more insufferable.
I don't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, well, what do you have at 4?
I have Bridget Jones' Diary.
Yeah, I have it at 3.
Yeah.
I went back and
So.
forth
mm,
on my placement of this one, but yeah.
This one was much higher until I watched the two films that I have above it, and so this one went low on the on the totem pole. But I think it's still a fun movie. Renee
Yeah.
Zellweger is so great in it, and so is Hugh Grant and Colin Firth, and he's repeating his Darcy role here to an
Hmm.
extent, and
Which was
it's
so brilliant.
which was so brilliant to cast him in that. It was so great, and I Andrew Davis wrote the screenplay. He adapted it from the novel, and of course, Andrew Davis is very famous for doing the Pride and Prejudice, the
Yeah.
1995 version. And he's done what? He's done all Jane Austen's the six novels, for the exception of Mansfield Park. He's never no. Yes, Mansfield Park. I'm sorry. He's never
Wait,
wrote
I
an
thought this was
adaptation.
Richard Curtis. Oh,
It's
and
both
Andrew
of them
Davies. I didn't
together.
realize they both
Yeah,
worked
it's
on
both
it.
of them together.
Oh,
Yeah. He was brought on specifically because he had done such a great job adapting Austen's work. And he's
uh-huh.
done, I think the only one he hasn't adapted is Mansfield Park. And so Andrew
Yeah.
Davis is like a hit or a miss, at certain times, the way he adapts certain things. But
Yes.
I think that he adds because of his understanding of Austen. I think he adds an extra to the adaptation of this, and it's. At first, I was worried it didn't age well, but no, it still works for the most part.
Oh,
I think Bridget Jones' Diary, and it's the
yeah.
best out of the three. Though I haven't seen the third one, so that's unfair. But I've seen the second one, and I think it works much better
Oh yeah, the second
than
one
the
is
second
trash.
one.
But
Trash.
this first one is really great. We forget
Really
that
great.
Renee was nominated for an Oscar for this.
Yeah, so you do forget. And she puts in
Yeah.
such good work. But I think what I remember the discourse about this movie was like, she gained 20 pounds for this movie.
Right.
She has to play a porky or whatever. She looks great in this movie. She never looked better, I don't think either.
Yeah.
She looks so good when she's in the Playboy bunny outfit. I mean, she's super sexy in this movie.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, like, I'm so fat. And I think
Yeah.
that's also one of the things where her character is fixated on her weight, which is not a problem. I think everybody else notices that, but it's like that inner
Yeah.
monologue of you not being happy with yourself. But
She didn't need that big of panties. Let's be honest.
oh my gosh, yes.
Cute.
No, you don't need that. You're not wearing granny panties. Get out of here.
But this movie will always have my heart for a lot of reasons. Casting absolutely great, but I love the fight at the end. I think it's hilarious. It's one of the
Yeah.
best like pieces of physical comedy that we've had in a long time. Like we usually don't get that kind of outright slapstick that
No.
works. So I love that. But the whole scene when she makes blue soup, I think is absolutely hilarious.
It
And
is.
her friends. I mean, those scenes of friendship will almost always be a highlight for me.
Yes.
And Richard Curtis, as we talked about many
Oh,
times,
yeah, he's great
he
at
is
that.
great at writing friendship
Mhm.
scenes. And so she makes the soup. She's a terrible cook.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she makes the soup and she ties it with a blue ribbon,
Oh boy.
blue string. And of course, it makes the soup blue. And all her friends are sitting around. They're like, blue is a very underused color in food.
I would have been out. I was like, I'm not eating that. No, no, girl, no. I mean, it wouldn't kill you, I guess. It's just a dye, but I would be like, I'm out.
And then the one friend makes the toast of that our friend to Bridget, who can't cook to save her life, but we love her just the way she is. And
I
that's kind of
know.
the theme of
It is,
the
and she
movie is
tried,
that
you
you
know,
love people just the way they are,
just the way they are, right?
flaws
And I
and
do
all.
love, I also do love how Hugh Grant just plays Swarmy in this.
Yeah,
And he's
he
so
really
good at
does.
that, you know,
Yeah.
and as playing kind of Swarmy. And I think at this point, I don't know if I'm remembering correctly, but like Hugh Grant had such a long run of these rom-coms or these romantic movies, you know, with his
Yeah.
fumbling, whatever, that he's so good at doing. And then to
Yeah.
just be swarmy and confident and sexy
Yeah.
was like a nice change of pace.
Yeah. I
you
mean,
know,
and
for him.
technically he was even a lead in a Jane Austen, so it's kind of fun.
That is right. Yes. Of course I go. I can't believe I forgot that. You're right. No, I think they did such a good such a good job in casting these men like, because they were heartthrobs of very successful Jane Austen adaptations.
Yeah. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies. My
number 4 is Where I Have Aisha. This is definitely the most underrated on this list. I don't think a lot of people have seen it. It is delightful. It's a Bollywood adaptation of Emma. It's really fun. Great sequences, great leads. I don't know. There's nothing not to like about this.
No,
it is
it's adorable.
delightful.
It is delightful. This is my number 3.
Yeah.
I had never seen it before. I did know that it existed, but for a while I couldn't find it anywhere. And it is playing on Hulu. It's still on Hulu for anybody who wants to check it out. It is so delightful. I love that the way it gave me visually, and there's certain elements like with the flat tire and stuff. Visually, it kind of reminded me of Clueless, which is
Yeah.
also an adaptation of Emma. So it's natural,
Right.
but to put those together. But visually, it kind of reminded me of
Mhm.
Clueless,
The
and that,
colors and
yeah, the colors and
yeah.
man, I love the cast, and
Mhm.
I just think it was so refreshing to see another country handle Jane Austen, because Jane
Mhm.
Austen is very British. We
Yeah.
associate that. Like, so our mind, like when I think of Jane Austen, I immediately think of like, well, only the Brits can do her well or whatever. You have that association with your mind. But I loved it. It's so
Yeah.
delightful. It's so charming. It has a wonderful cast. It's a
Mhm.
good it's a good interpretation. It's a good update.
Mhm.
And and like you want those two to get together. It's so funny because I was watching this and my brother-in-law walks in and is like, "What are you watching?" I'm like, I'm watching this movie for the podcast." And then he just sits down and he starts to watch it going, "What's wrong with these people?" And my sister's like, "Did you get sucked into the movie?" And he was like, "Yes, yes, I did."
That's funny.
So yeah, it's very
It will
charming.
suck you in.
It
It's
does. That shopping spree scene was just
yes.
hysterical,
Hmm.
you know.
And
And I
it's got
think,
like the music that you want
yes,
from a Bollywood production and
totally.
and
I
just the energy.
Yeah, I was thinking, I was like, because this movie is in Hindi. So I was thinking, so it does count as a Bollywood movie, but it doesn't have like what you would traditionally think of a Bollywood movie. There's not like song and dance in it. It's
Yeah.
very straightforward. I mean, they're dancing, they get away with that, with musical
Hmm.
montages and with,
Yes. Yeah,
the
montages.
weddings and stuff. That's how they get away with it.
Hmm.
So I was like, I don't know if this is true, true, true Bollywood, but it's adorable. It
Yeah.
really is.
Well, so what do you have at number two?
Bride and Prejudice.
Yeah,
I
same.
finally
So
got
we
to
have
watch
this.
this movie, and it is great. This is a total Bollywood um
Yeah, this
production.
actually has
Oh yeah,
song and
song and
dance.
dance numbers. I loved every minute of it. I think it's actually uh a good take on actual Pride and Prejudice. I
Yes.
loved it, and I know it's delightful as well. It's just,
And
I mean, right off the bat at the wedding, I was like, yes, they're dancing and they're
yeah.
singing, and I was like, yes, this is what I want.
Yeah, it's a really good kind of gateway to Bollywood. Like
Yeah.
I'm not an
Hmm.
expert on Bollywood, but if you want to kind of get a feel for the way they do the musical numbers and a feel for the culture, this one is in English
Yes,
and
it's totally, yeah. It's more, I think sometimes people are afraid don't be afraid of subtitles. You're going to be all
yeah.
right. I usually like I unless I'm having a bad day, where I can't see things, I always read the subtitles when I watch
Hmm.
um international films, foreign films. I don't,
Yeah.
because I always like to hear the natural language because you get just a better feel of the performance the actors is going in. So I think if people are weary, like this is completely in English, so
Hmm.
you can warm your way into
Yeah.
it, but don't be afraid of the subtitles, people. Like, don't be afraid of watching Aisha because you have to watch it in subtitles. You're gonna
Exactly.
be all right. It's
Yeah,
gonna be okay.
exactly. And but some great songs. No Lie for That Wife is probably
Oh,
my favorite.
yes.
It's a lot of fun. The dancing and the just the colors and the staging and everything. And if people are
Yeah,
Virgin River fans, they'll like seeing Martin Henderson in
that's right.
this
Super
and the
sexy.
lead.
And I mean, he's still
Yeah.
sexy, but he was like peak sexy.
Yes.
Then he got mature sexy.
And I think they did a good job updating the story, making it
Yes.
the for Lydia's story, for Jane's story, for Lizzie, giving it in Indian setting, and making it modern. And it's just fun.
Oh, the
This is
mom
a
is hysterical.
fun movie.
The mom is so hysterical in this movie.
Yeah,
When
she's
she
a
starts
lot.
singing at the wedding and like her kids are cringing, like, no, that
Yeah.
dance that the daughter does when everyone's at dinner. So funny.
Yeah.
They really play with it. It's like, yeah,
And Ashara Rai, she is just so beautiful.
so
She's
beautiful.
oh
Everyone was
my
so beautiful in
gosh,
this movie. So,
gorgeous.
yeah.
Yeah, I know when they're acting like that she's the less attractive one than Jane. It's just like yeah,
All these ladies are beautiful, but no,
right.
she really stands out. And the
She's
camera
one of
loves her. They really do. Like when you get close-ups and the sweeping with her hair flowing everywhere, it was like the camera loves this woman,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Well, number one, we both have the same. It's
Yeah.
got to be Clueless, of course. What are you gonna
Yes.
do? Yeah.
Just probably the best take. And I mean, this movie spoke to me. I still remember my experience of first seeing this movie in the theater. Like, I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
And it has stayed with me. I was a teen then, and it has stayed with me since. And I do think that it's aged very well from a movie from the 90s because it has 90s lingo, 90s fashion, and all that other stuff. Like, it is seeped in 1995, you know? But
Mhm.
it still holds up. Even if you watch it today, it's like, it doesn't even matter. It's like, there are some movies that are so ensconced in the era that it's made that it's kind of hard to, if somebody younger
Yeah.
watches that to get the vibe of it. But I do think that Clueless is like ageless in a way,
Mhm. It does. It holds up. It is really funny. It
Yeah,
is really insightful, and it's got great performances. It's just one of my all-time favorite movies.
totally.
Not
That's
even
my
just.
mother loved it. I think it, we.
Mhm.
I had been angling to see this movie for a while, but when we first watched it, oh man, it was the hottest day. We were all stuck in my mother's room. We had hamsters at the time too, so we had put all my hamster cages in my mother's room because it was the only room in the house that had air conditioner. That didn't work half the time because my dad was like, "This air conditioner is iced over. It'll still work. De-ice it. Take the ice off." We're
Oh, the
sweating.
dad is so
Yeah.
funny in
Oh
this.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so we ran to the theater, and I was like, let's just go to the movies for the air conditioner. And we saw Clueless, and and it's been a
Yeah.
part of me ever since.
I love
But
the
yeah,
dad so much. What do you think? The death of Sammy Davis Jr. left an opening in the Rat
of
Pack for
course
you?
that actor was so good at playing like the cranky like that.
I couldn't be
Yeah.
more proud if they were based on actual grades.
Now this, I think, because Alicia Silverstone was already the Aerosmith girl, she was
Yeah.
already known, but this really threw her over
Yeah. Yeah,
the
until Batman and
stratosphere.
Robin, and then her career took a dive. But
Oh,
she's
I
great
just
in
think they didn't
this.
know what to do with her after a point.
Yeah.
And
Um
Brittany Murphy is very good in it as well.
mhm, mhm. Yep. It's one of my favorite movies. Just
Oh,
like
and what's his name? I can't remember his name. He does not age. He has
Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd. He's got his portrait locked in an attic like Dorian.
He made a deal with the
He
devil somewhere.
he totally like he comes up every night and he's looking at his own portrait, like the portrait of Dorian Lord, just looking at it,
And the
sipping
scene where they
whatever.
go on the freeway.
Oh my gosh, that scene was hysterical. My mother lost it when she first saw that. She was like, "Oh no." And
But
when she's just like, she casually, what I remember too is my mother's reactions too. Like when she just hits the curb and knocks, you say, oops, my bad while driving. My mom's
should
reaction
I
was
leave
like,
a
oh my
note?
God. You don't even know I just, like, I have fond memories of
Yeah.
of that. Like, but it's so great. Still holds up. And, you know,
Dion and I are friends because we know what it's like for people to feel jealous of us.
oh my gosh. I will say that I think the high school cliques
Uh-huh.
were were accurate.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I do think,
I
and I think that
remember because this
yeah.
came out before my freshman year of high school, and I remember going into high school and being like, I get it. This is I understand my world.
Yes. I think I was a sophomore, I think.
I mean, they didn't have drama geeks, but they basically did. That would have been my clique.
But it very much matched my high school too. The
Yeah.
jocks,
Oh
the
yeah.
druggies,
And the whole diatribe about boys and their moppy hair. They're, they're, they expect us to swoon as if.
we didn't really have the marijuana like skateboarding kids in my school, but like there were we had to oh God people had found goth at that point. There were a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
goth, and I
goth
was
heads.
like, you know nothing. Um, because a lot of them were like, I just, I was like, I
Yeah.
don't think you're really feeling that. Like this one girl goes, I like heavy metal. And I was like, that doesn't mean you're goth. I like heavy metal too. We're all right.
Can I go to the office to get my Cranberry CD?
Oh my gosh.
Well, yeah,
Very true to that
it's
time.
so good. It's so good. Well, we asked our patrons if you want to be a part of these episodes, then if you want to be a part of these ranking episodes, then check out the Patreon. It's the best way you can help us, and you get lots of great perks. And we asked our patrons what were their favorite of this list. And Steve Hahn said, I think I've seen 5 of these, but the only one I really, really liked was Clueless. I saw Jane Austen Book Club and was curious what you thought of it. So he'll hear that. And I responded, I said, I actually think it's quite underrated. And I agree with that. So then we have, I asked on Twitter what people thought. And Alicia Lomas Gross says, my top 3 would be Bridget Jones, Clueless, and Austenland. The Girly Nerd says Clueless, Austenland, Bride and Prejudice, Bridget Jones's Diary, The Jane Austen Book Club, Pride and Prejudice 2003. I turned off Prada to Nada. I disliked it so much. I haven't seen the others yet. So interesting. Rachel McMillan says Clueless, Bridget Jones, and Bride and Prejudice are my favorites. And then Melody Edwards says Bride and Prejudice and Austenland are my faves. So lots of different opinions. And like I said, I'll put the list of these 13 in the description so you can share with us your picks. And this was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. So let us know what you think of our ranking. And Terry, where can people find you?
I'm at Twitter at Flurry Heaven.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We really need that right now because of the new updates to the iPhones. It's causing us lots of problems. Please, please, please put in your ratings and reviews on iTunes. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We really, really appreciate that. And then we also have our Patreon group, which we mentioned before, is super fun, a great way to get extra bonus benefits and you can be part of watch-alongs. We are having this month, Donna Benedicto is coming on. We're going to watch her movie Wedding Cake Dreams. So that's going to be really fun. So lots of great perks for being a patron. And then the merch store where we have Austen-inspired merch at the merch store. So check that out. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.